Hello there, my name is Connor Rickett, and I am here today for Cities of the Mind Freelance Writing, of which I am the owner and operator. Alright, now today we're going to talk about something that I already talked about this week, actually, in my podcast, but partly because nobody actually listens to those podcasts, and partly because it was possible to do a quicker version of it. I'm also doing a video. Now, if you do want more in-depth reasoning behind everything I'm saying here, go check out the podcast. If not, just stick with it, because what I'm talking about today is what pages you need on your blog. Now, specifically, I'm talking about freelancer blogs, like, if you are a freelancer and this is your blog, these are the pages you need, but there is a certain amount of bleed over into ordinary blogging, just blogging in general. Now, for those of you that don't know, pages are a subdivision on WordPress of your main page. You've got your website, right? And it's broken down into pages. Now, one of those pages is what's called a page of post, and that is your blog. Obviously, you need your blog. Now, the reason you need a blog is mostly for page rank, honestly. That's why every single business on earth seems to have a blog, even though they have no real reason for having a blog. It's just some clickbait and stuff. It's to raise their page rank, because Google likes things that change rather than things that are static. Now, you can have static pages, and that is the first thing I want to talk about, the home page. Now, some people are going to have their blogs as the home page, and honestly that's the default on most blogging platforms, WordPress, Blogger, basically all the big ones. That's for simplicity's sake, for beginners. That's not how you want to have it down the line, right? The reason for that is basically presentation. You want to have a static home page so you can take the time and the resources to make it really cool and really pretty. Now, why do you care so much? Well, as a freelancer, no matter what you're doing, what you're freelancing, the very first sale that you make is yourself. And the way a lot of us make our first impression is through the website that we have running. So, homepage, pretty. You can't do that with a blog. I mean, you can, but it takes a lot of time and effort to make individual blog posts look very pretty. And even if you do that really well, the fact of the matter is some are going to be better than others. And also it's vulnerable to change over time in that your aesthetic is going to change as time goes on. There's nothing really that you can do about that. It's just as you develop as a writer and a blogger and a graphic designer and all these other things, the relative level of things is going to fluctuate and you're going to take it in new directions. And my point is, you want to keep it all on the front page, nice and static and pretty. That doesn't mean you can never change it or update it. It just means it needs to look nice. So take the control and have the front page, the dedicated front page, separate from your blog. The second thing is the blog page. There are a few things you really want to consider for the blog page, the main one being ease. Because what are you doing? You're delivering content. Alright? You're delivering content. So you want to do that as easily as possible. Now here on Cities of the Mind, I actually have a more complicated version of that than you really need for the number of posts I have, but that's because I have big plans. This is going to be a much bigger site as time goes on, so I've deliberately built in a more complex system that will scale well, because the general linear system for the blog would not work for what I have in mind. But it's not a bad place to start. Now, the third thing you're going to want is an About Me page. Because again, your first sale is yourself. So, it's easier to sell yourself if you have something about yourself. I don't really think I need to expound on that point. I think that's pretty self-evident. So you're going to want to decide what you want to have up there. A little bit fun, a little professional. I go a little bit more fun than professional. Mostly as a matter of choice, taste, aesthetic, whatever you want to call it. Now, the next thing is a contact page, and this is a little weird for me because I think every page needs to be your contact page, and the reason for that is basically the number one rule of sales, whether it's writing or cards or whatever is don't give people time to change their mind, right? So the second somebody on your site, a potential customer, decides they want to contact you, they should be able to. You don't want them clicking and looking around and deciding and thinking. No, you want them in contact with you as soon as possible. Once that contact is open, you have a much better chance of making a sale. You know, like the conversion rate between people who view my site and people who contact me is considerably lower than the conversion rate of people who contact me, you know, prospectively looking for client or, you know, looking for a writer, converting to people who pay me to write things. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, the next one is the rate guide, and this is where we're splitting off from general blog really into freelancer territory. I've heard both ways here. There are good arguments. There are people who say, well, you don't want to put your rates up there because once your rates are up there, people can just point to your rates and be like, hey, I want it for this much. Plus, and this is another thing that you have to consider, is most freelancing, writing included, is a little bit complex. It's really hard to judge a fair price for something until you have details of the individual project. That said, and this is just where I'm coming from on this so you can see my reasoning here. You go to McDonald's, you look, you see the menu, right? And the prices. That's true of almost any restaurant except ones where people who eat there are so wealthy that they don't care about the prices. And it would be, I don't know, ostentatious or something to actually have them on the menu. Now, ostentatious. Anyway, my point is, wherever you go, that's a place of business, you expect to have the prices there so you can judge them. Now, there's some flexibility in price. You know, people contact me and they go, hey, I don't want to pay this much, and you know, maybe you make a really good case why you shouldn't have to pay that much, and I'll listen to you, and that doesn't mean that we'll agree, but there is some flexibility here. Now, what I'm getting at is the reason to have the rate guide there is because it looks professional. It says, hey, I'm here to do business. This is how much these services cost. Whenever I see somebody who says they're a freelance writer and they don't have their rates posted, in my mind, and again, this is my personal bias, but in my mind, I see big air quotations because it says to me they don't know how much they should be charging, right? I mean, if you know how much you're going to charge for projects, why not have how much you charge for projects up where the people who want to contact you in order to pay you for those projects can see them? That's just my opinion. Now, from here, I'm going to be real quick. I'm not going to go through all the things I did in the podcast, but from here, it's a matter of complexity. I like to keep it simple. I have, I guess, 5 things on my menu. I have the blog hub, which is the blog page, but it splits off into other things. You don't have to worry about that. That should just be your blog page. The logo for the site links you over to the home page. There's an update page, which is basically my Facebook page, but ported onto my website, and that may change. We'll see how that goes. I'm testing that out because I'm always messing around with these things. So that one may actually go away. Then there's the Hire Me, which is the About Me combined with the Contact, and the Rate Guide, all by itself because I want to make that professional appearance right there at the top of the page. I want that impression, right from the beginning. And that's it. I mean, that's all you need. Everything from there is extraneous. You want people to know who you are, what you have to say, what you charge, and you want them to have a way to get in contact with you. And then the 5th thing here is that homepage, because you want to control the first impression of the visitors as they reach you. And that is it. This has been way too long of a video, so I'm going to have to reshoot it anyway, I think. But that's it. Thank you all. Have a great day. Connor out.